Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Good morning. And it is a lovely Wednesday morning. Welcome to the Coffee Break Chat. I'm your host, James Jackson, executive producer, Light Thief Productions, he, they pronouns. And we have a good show for you today. We titled It's Me, Mario, just because we want to talk a little bit of production news. Christopher Pratt taking the lead in the Mario Brothers movie that's to be produced soon, and some other casting choices that can be questionable. And how do we choose casting anyway when we're doing productions? We're going to talk about the PPD raise, Marriott and Pat's cheesesteak fame here in Philadelphia, the EIDL, go get your money, and quitting to own the libs. It's just wow, just some crazy stuff going on in the news today. And I was just talking with our guests a moment ago. A lot of crazy stuff happening actually in the last 6 hours. So I didn't really get to put the topics on the broadcast title card, but there's also the defunding and refunding of the Broward County School District in Florida, who got defunded by Ron DeSantis, governor of Florida, and got refunded by the federal government. Anyway, to talk about all of these things and to talk about the Magnify Microgrant, we're going to bring up on screen Danielle and TS. If you guys wouldn't mind introducing yourselves, your pronouns, and what it is you do, we'll start with Danielle.
It's Gabrielle.
Oh, I'm sorry, Gabrielle. I'm sorry. I'm
No
sorry.
worries.
My apologies.
No worries at all. Absolutely. Gabrielle Corsaro, she, her pronouns, artistic director of Angel Pirate Productions, which is a production company that works here out of Philadelphia primarily, although recently has gone international due to some work with TS Hawkins. And I'm happy to be here.
So apparently we're having a few video issues. Meg is reporting. I'm not seeing what the problem is, but TS, if you would introduce yourself, your pronouns, and what it is you do, I will try and take care of those on my end.
No worries, no worries. Hello, everyone. My name is TS Hawkins, pronouns they, them exclusively. And I am an international author, performance poet, and has worked with Gabrielle on so many different things, from the Bridge Project and also to co-partnering with her in a way for The Secret Life of Wonder when it went to Australia. So that was super, super awesome.
Awesome. And tell us a little bit about the Magnify Microgrant, if you would, please.
I'll let Gabrielle start.
Okay. Awesome. So the Magnify Microgrant is a new initiative this year that TS and I are collaborating on. It is meant for theater creatives of color living in the Philadelphia and working in the Philadelphia area. There are 4 separate individual $500 micro grants being offered, and it is for performers, so actors, dancers, musicians, theater directors, and what is the other category? Oh, and playwrights, of course.
And playwrights.
Yeah, and so that's it in a nutshell. We just launched it a couple weeks ago, and submissions are open. There is information available at angelpirate.org. There is a link there with more information and the link to the form. And yeah, we're very, very excited about it. The deadline is Tuesday, October 12th at this point.
Yep. This way. And
October
it's a very
12th?
simple, yes, October 12th. And it's a very simple application process, I think, in all. I mean, outside of folks giving like their information, it's like 4 questions total. One of which is like a human check-in. You know what I mean? Like, you have the quintessential, please give me the money because, right? And then, we have like the human check-in. Because sometimes it does get daunting when you're trying to apply for like funding to either fund your project or like fund yourself personally. Like you spend hours and you still don't. Not everybody can get everything. So it was a wonderful idea that speared from Gabrielle's brain. Gabrielle has put herself in a position to always, when possible, center Black and Brown voice. So it's cool to partner with her and watch her still grow like within this process as we're talking about the different Black and Brown voices that need to create and manifest art for the masses.
Awesome. What would you say has been the biggest challenge of offering this grant, like of creating this selection process and offering this grant?
Well, one challenge I think always is getting the word out. You throw it out there, you ask people to share. I know there are plenty of people that, could benefit from this microgrant. First thing is I just very much want to encourage folks to please apply. Look at the criteria, look at who is eligible, and then apply, please. We're excited to know you and to know about you and your work, and just and share it with other artists that that could benefit from this. That's the first one top of mind. There are other challenges. I'll let TS weigh in.
I don't, sometimes I'm trying to like switch my framework and way of thinking, not so much a challenge, but just trying to find different creative ways to make sure folks are tapped in, like come and get this money. Like it's one of few grants where you have to be extra performative after, right? It's like, tell us why this money is going to help you, whether personally or professionally. And then it's like, give us like your social media. Like the whole goal is to make sure that we're continuing to put you out there, continuing to let other people know that you exist and your work and your position in life is valid. That's it. Because at the end of the day, we have to read them. So it's like we try to eliminate as much of the song and dance as possible. So come and get this money.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we're all about go get your money here. We keep talking about it. There is, I wouldn't call it an uptick in available funds. I would call it an uptick in diversity of resources. It's interesting that we're talking about this microgrant right now in the current economic situation we find ourselves in. We've got the Delta variant twist on the pandemic. We've got we've got the House and Senate Republicans, federal government saying that they're going to not re-up the debt limit on the federal debt, which I don't know. Maybe you weren't. Maybe some of my audience weren't politically active 8 years ago, or 12 years ago now. Also, and then 18 years before that. Every time since I would say since the Bush administration, since the Bush administration left office, every time this debt limit comes up, we have congressional Republicans holding us over the barrel over something that we have to do. that there's literally no way not to do it, which is authorize the debt ceiling increase on the federal debt. Now, I don't know how much you all pay attention to this weird element of politics, but I'm sure having microgrant programs like this out there is helping the economy in a way. Because not allowing the federal government to service the national debt, or that's exactly what this does. It doesn't allow the federal government to basically pay its bills. We're going to need lots of resources out there like this, just because the independent money is the only way to continue to work when the federal government can't afford to continue spending the way it does and should in a free economy. Anyway,
the funny part is it's so funny, and I use the word funny loosely. It's like when we want to start a war, when we want to get in somebody else's business, then it's across the board. Oh yeah, let's just raise the debt limit. Like, we got to do what we got to do. Machine guns, whatever, pillaging, raping, X, Y, and Z. But help our own nation. Nah, we got to keep the money low. And then questions go like, who do we actually owe? Like, I know who we owe, but the joke is like, who do we actually owe? Who do we keep borrowing from? And why do they let us keep borrowing from them? If I were to go into a bank and I had no collateral, I get no loans. So I don't understand, who is America going to and saying we good for it? Who?
Well, I mean, and that's the thing is we are good for it. That's this debt ceiling increase just allows us to pay our bills, and without allowing us to pay our bills, then suddenly we aren't good for it, and that it affects the so nations all work on kind of like the concept of, yeah, we good for it. They always, I mean, if
my friend owed me $5 since 1992, and I haven't seen that $5, they not good for it. Like, they're not, like, the same principality. Like, you still owe me money. What I look like going in my pocket giving you more money when I ain't seen you since 92. Run me my money.
Well, I mean, it's a little different. I mean, this is like this is more like I borrowed money from UTS in 92, and then in 95, I borrowed $5 from you. In 95, I gave you $250, but I needed to borrow 10. And then in 98, I borrowed 20, but I gave you like $750 back.
Hard pass. And our government is dealing with dollars that only make sense in theory. I'm sorry, like, trillions? I don't like where, like, who's carrying trillions in their bank account? Like, it's just like, nah, if you owe me 5, run me my 5 before you come asking me for 10. Or you give me 275 and then you are in constant debt to me. And I'm trying to have you live debt free.
There was there's a couple of historical things that come into play here. This was an argument all the way back in the founding of the country. Like, there were certain elements of the group of the Continental Congress who thought that the federal government shouldn't be able to have debt. That's why the debt limit exists in the first place. Is because we found as a country that you couldn't operate without debt, because you can't in international politics. You can't operate without some sort of debt. You need to end up owing people money, because it actually leads to peace. It actually leads to a lack of a war. Right.
you know, like I remember, but I know that my understanding is that, you know, Hamilton put these things in place, you know, as an advocate for putting these things in place at the outset of the country, because you need buy-in from other major countries in the world to, you know, be a player. And so we had to do that. You know, and that's the basis of the country then, you know, this you know, monetary capitalist system that, you know, it intertwines everyone, you know, all of our allies and others. But, you know, all of this it underscores the wickedness of like wielding money for power, and how that's just baked into the DNA of this country. We're not alone, and not just our country, but certainly our country. And this, you know, power play of like, no, we're not going to give you the money you need to pay our collective bills. You know, it's just, you know, there's just no humanity in it. You know, it's just all money power play.
Point. That's like, there is no humanity in it, right? Because like, so when folks get the understanding of like, haha, this is the game, and they find whatever codes are necessary to win the game, America and its allies, I don't know, do we have any friends anymore? Because we keep messing up. I'm like, so America and its allies would be like, so you want to be free from me? Got you. We're just gonna put plagues on all your houses. Like, because think about Haiti. What's happening with those from Haiti who are like trying to come over because America and England done messed up Haiti all the way around. They got their independence, and American England's like, haha, we'll show you, black folks. Right. Like, it's just ridiculous.
I mean, so that the folks that are watching that don't understand what TS is talking about with regards to Haiti, just know that. So if you look at this is an interesting little rabbit hole that I went down the other day. If you look at the flags of African nations, most African national flags have green, red, and or black in their national flag. The reason for that is the Haitian national flag. Haiti was the first country to win its independence as a formal colonial nation, and won it by itself with no support from any outside interests. So it's interesting because you know, the United States won its independence, but it was the colonizers that won their independence from their colonial country. Haiti was the first country to win its own independence using its native and kidnapped peoples to win that independence. And it was the first country to do so. Additionally, Haiti did not set up a system like the U.S. where they drew in support from outside nations to win that independence. They had a war that was completely to do with the local people and the colonial forces that were there. I'll go down the rabbit hole a little bit for you guys. So when you look at the national flags all around Africa, I forget who it was that first did it. I want to say Zimbabwe, but I may be wrong. I apologize. I can't recall. But the first African nation to win its own colonial independence, break away from the colonial system that had been set up there, chose to use the same colors as the Haitian flag, but replace one of them, I believe, red with yellow, or vice versa, to have a similar flag. And then if you look around Africa, a lot of the national flags have the same colors and same color scheme. The most interesting one to me being the South African national flag, which incorporates elements of the colonial flag colors and the Haitian flag colors. to celebrate the independence of South Africa, but also celebrate the kind of coming together and unification of South Africa, which is in part working, I suppose. There's a bit of a bit of cooperation in the South African.
It's interesting. It's interesting because then I hadn't thought about this as much since until you brought this up. But then if you look at historic colonizers, we're talking about a lot of red, white, and blue. The United States, France, Britain. Just off the top of our head. So that's very interesting. But it's also, I think that there are so many things that we're touching on here that it is easy certainly for Americans, to be like, oh, well, whatever, to make light of these things. But no, the history really matters. There is definitely, Haiti has definitely suffered from the threat that they, made historically colonizing countries perceive from them. This is an independent Black nation. That is like that there is some, deep fear in the hearts of lots of governments about that reality. And that just runs through. And so when there are opportunities to treat people inhumanely, usually that's not just like, some white guy on a horse and a whip, that's not an independent action. That's a historical through line, right? That identity, is something that they have and that person has inherited from somewhere. And that somewhere is this country.
Yep. And put systems in place to keep that energy moving.
And keep it moving the same way. I was just talking with one of my neighbors about so I've talked about it a lot in my own social media, and I talk about it a lot in person. I don't know that I've ever brought it to the broadcast before, but there is a system of divestment from Black and brown neighborhoods, and so we'll segue a little bit here into the PPD raises. So the PPD, the Philadelphia Police Department, is getting a raise. It's getting 2 raises that are already signed into law. They're getting 2.5% year over year this coming fiscal year, and they're getting 2.7% the following year. That can all be changed, but it probably won't be. The way that the Philadelphia Police Department gets its money for its salaries is through the Fraternal Order of Police, FOP Lodge 5, and negotiations with the city of Philadelphia between the labor of FOP Lodge 5 and the city of Philadelphia have to be conducted. And then when there is a disagreement, because there always is, they have to go into arbitration. Arbiters are selected by the state, and the state arbiters are supposed to look at several criteria when they're choosing, how to move forward with the contract negotiations. One of those criteria is supposed to be, does this contract significantly impact the city and its other goals and priorities? So in other words, the arbiters are supposed to look at the overall picture of the city of Philadelphia and understand what the direction that the mayor's office, the city council, and the people of Philadelphia are trying to take it. And they're supposed to consider whether or not this raise or this budget that the police department is demanding will affect other things in the city. Interestingly, the arbiters during this round of negotiations publicly said, yes, this will affect other priorities of the city of Philadelphia, and the city of Philadelphia should perhaps consider lowering its budget line items for other things in order to meet this FOP raise.
Hard pass. What? Hard. That okay? You know, no.
But I mean, are we surprised?
Not surprised, and I think that's what continues to get irked. It's like, and because then that becomes the energy. Oh, I'm not surprised. They're going to do whatever they're going to do anyway. Therefore, it decreases the amount of folks that should be enraged.
Well, that's just the thing. It decreases, it decreases participation, and it disenfranchises people because people go, oh, hey, you know, we just marched for what, like 9 months in a row? Like there was something like 9 months in a row where there was no day without a major multi-hundred-person march going somewhere on in the city of Philadelphia, and demanding
police scuffles with the same people that they quote unquote are sworn to protect, right? So like as educators, listen, our salaries are always on the table, and they always find different ways to defund education, period. So they'll keep that same energy when it comes to the police. You don't get rewarded for killing the people you're supposed to serve. You don't get rewarded for being criminals yourself. You don't get rewarded for that. And again, it's sad you have to say like, oh, well, you know, it's not everyone. No one cares when it comes to education. Not every teacher is trash. But if you don't hit your benchmarks, your school doesn't do well, X, X, Y, and Z, there's all types of legalese and loopholes to justify why you shouldn't be making what you should be making. Police murder more people on the job than murders happen on the street. Police harm more people on the job than someone else can harm you at work. And yet you get rewarded for that. And then if someone is, I can't even say lucky because lucky is not even the right terminology to use, but lack of better phrasing in early in the morning before coffee. If you are in a position where you are able to fight for your rights to be seen, if you're in a position for your name or your family to become a hashtag, right? And so you get to put those officers on the stand and do whatever. The city, the police department gets to pull money from the city to give you a buyout. Pull it from their salaries. Start pulling from their salaries, and then they stop acting foolish on the job.
And that's
these raises for? Why are we going to desecrate a city to give you a raise to continue to hurt people in said city? That makes no sense whatsoever.
No, and it doesn't, and it's exactly opposite what the mandate of the negotiations is it's supposed to be. So, so you know we have admittedly a violence problem in the city of Philadelphia. You know, there is constant violence in the city of Philadelphia. I cited as part of
because police are getting raises. When you keep defunding communities, when you keep revitalizing neighborhoods, and you don't give them proper access to education so that they can continue to put in generational worth back into their communities, yes, people are going to resort to their human instinct, which is to be violent. You're not going to come in my neighborhood and do X, X, Y, and Z. And if you do, we're going to make sure you get punished for it. Because you're not
I've been saying several times that the normal way of dealing with things as a society is always formed. Whenever you have people in close proximity to each other, they form a social system, and the social system that has developed in the city is a lot of hyper-local control with unelected officials, but people who in any other environment would be the government. You know, when you have gangs standing on a street corner, and you have gang members protecting their block, that in any other social system, they would be the military and the police. You know, when you have a person going up to somebody and shooting them because they disagree over a matter of $20 is not because they're insane or because they don't respect authority or something like that. It's because they don't think that can be taken care of through the system that exists. They don't think that there's anybody else out there that's going to protect them, so they take matters into their own hands.
These are facts.
And yeah, and that involving police in these situations may very likely make it worse for the people living in that community. You know,
Right.
I mean, calling the police is something that certainly lots of white people take as like a, you know, I'll speak as a white person, that feel like something's going down, really, like, you know, I think we learned last year, it's like to any degree, right? Is there any grievance, anything that's making you uncomfortable or you're unsure about, you're going to call 911, aren't you? If you're a white person, yes. You know, it could be, you know, a wide range of things, which is an issue in and of itself. That's way too much power to be giving to, you know, one, you know, source of service in our community. That should be, you should be able to call a variety of places, not always 911, you know, but you know, but communities.
Well,
are
911 should have
certainly-
more resources, is what it comes down to. Is
I guess they
911?
branch
911
out.
does a lot. Like, they are the dispatch for everything. Like, they're the ones that have to route. It's like, yeah, you called 911, but do you need the police? You need the fire department? Do you need an EMT? Like, they have to funnel whatever little bit of information that you're giving them. They have a lot on their plate to kind of funnel through to get you the right resources. So, however, the police, not the right. I mean, firefighters ain't
Well,
setting houses on fire. EMTs ain't just sticking people with needles for funsies. Police get to be afraid on the job. Like, that's uncool.
But that's the whole thing here, that I'm saying with 911 needs more resources is the defunding of the police. The funds need to be in other things, because if and I've said this before, if you invest in a solution, you invest in a tool, you're going to turn to that tool, the one that's most expensive. I just bought a new camera. And you know, I'm sitting here, you know, and I'm thinking, hey, I want to take a picture. Am I going to turn to that new camera, which was really expensive, or am I going to go with my old camera, which is less expensive, but might be just as good for the job, or might be something that I could turn to, or am I gonna go, you know, with the cheapest option, which is, you know, like my cell phone or something, you know. So you turn to the tool that you've invested the most money in, is my point, and you're invariably going to turn to that tool. It's just the way that people work.
If only that investment of money would go towards saying, like, you know, as TS was saying, you know, the various different places that a 911 call ultimately, you know, the resource is tapped, you know, there need to be more of them, right? Like, you know, we need so many more folks who know how to, you know, compassionately, you know, help and control and guide someone through a psychotic incident, which a lot of times is, you know, what's happening is that there's like some poor, you know, soul who just needs some help right now, you know, and if they were a different person in a different segment of society, they would probably be getting that help. But instead, you know, they're getting, you know, abused, you know, and or worse, and so, you know, so I agree that if, you know, if the money's going to go there, then let's build with it, right? Like, that camera is going to have a lot of new tricks that you can do with it, right? A lot of ways that you can, like, you know, get down into like the minutia of like what you want to do here and what you want to do here, what the outcome, what your product, you know, what is going to come from this great new tool that you have, you know, this collection of tools. Well, if with money, we can have a collection of tools behind 911.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And sometimes
Yeah.
they just need a counselor, and that counselor could be for the person who's having the episode at the moment, or it could be for the Karen who called because her neighbors are having a block party and it's making her frazzled. Like,
Yes.
We don't have to launch the police for a block party. We don't need to now create quiet hours in neighborhoods that never had quiet hours. some of that stuff could be rerouted. So why we could put the money back into the neighborhoods, back into the schools. Let's get the asbestos out of the schools. Let's make sure teachers have resources to actually teach. These things help revitalize the community that already exists. And that's
speaking of teachers, go ahead. I'm sorry, could you?
I was like, that's why the Magnify microgrant is important. It's like, listen.
Yeah.
Like, Gabrielle is always trying to find ways to make sure the Black and Brown voice is uplifted through art. Art saves lives, people. I mean, you know, in the metaphorical, saves lives.
Art does save lives. No, I mean, I won't even say it in the metaphorical sense.
Like, I save lives, right? But like, yes, like art can save life. Laughter is healing, right? Expression is.
I mean, I've literally been approached by kids after a production. You know, so I did a production a couple years ago, and we had all these talkbacks because it was a very deep topic, and we had this school group come in, and they were at-risk youth, and I had two of the kids come up to me after the show and literally tell me that, you know, this show saved my life. And I'm like, okay, well, that seems like a lot of responsibility, but you know, please do explain. And they were like, you know, you're right. It's important for me to see people like me up on stage, see people like me doing the work on, you know, behind the scenes, on the stage. I'm very grateful to see you up here being the director and producer, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, wow, okay. You know, that's not even what I was going for, but all right, I appreciate it. You know, and investing in education, investing in the arts, I think is, I would classify it as a shortcut to investing in the community, investing back into the community, and breaking these cycles of divestment from the community. So I think we have two divergent ways of thinking about expenditures and community safety. And I think that those two divergent, two primary ways of thinking about it have come to the forefront in the last 2 years. Just starting with George Floyd protesting, and not that, you know, there haven't been people out here saying this forever, because there have. But I think it's you know, really become the center of conversation in politics, especially local politics. So we have the idea that spending money on things like police, spending money on things like control of the community, laws to codify how you want your community to work. That's one way of thinking about it. And the opposite way, I don't want to say opposite, but the other primary way of thinking about it is spending money on opportunities for your community and letting your community organize itself and control itself. So you have those two primary things that are out there right now, and you have all these people arguing over it. This is a long way of working around to talk about the Broward County school system. So in Broward County, you have, Broward County is in Florida. The school system there decided to issue a mask mandate. They said all students must wear masks, all teachers must wear masks. If you're inside the school building, you have to wear a mask to prevent the spread of a virus that the students cannot get inoculated for yet. I'm huffing because I'm about to say the arguments that have been provided against this mask mandate, and they frustrate me. They frustrate me because they're just so untrue that I don't know how to express them very well. So the arguments against all this is that it's blocking parental rights, the right of a parent to control their kid. Well, first of all, let me tell you something. You ain't never had the right to control your kid. You have the right to parent your kid and teach them whatever you want, but when it comes down to like minute control of your kid, first of all, not many of these people that are talking about parental rights can be parents, because I'm a parent for all of like 4 months, and I already know I have got zero control of this kid. Like, there is no controlling a child. They are a human being who has their own ideas about everything, even, like starting out from when they exit the womb, like so, but they're talking about parental rights. They're talking about things like, masks being detrimental to children's psychological health. All these things that just are. Oh, and saying things like that there are no studies that prove that masks work. I can't go into how wrong that is. I'll be here all damn day. But anyway, so
Florida makes me itch sometimes. I can't. It's so much.
It is so much, and much like anywhere where we're talking about trying to change the culture of a thing, the state of Florida is using the purse strings to try and change the culture of this particular school district. They have defunded the school district. They said that they were going to, and they did. And the Federal Department of Education stepped in and said, okay, well, we're just going to give them the funds because that's their responsibility. For those who are not aware, there is actually a constitutional mandate for education. That's why there is a Department of Education, and a lot of people have been fighting, since before I was born, but a lot of people have been fighting forever to get rid of the Department of Education, saying it's unconstitutional. It's constitutional. It's actually in there. Like, the education of the population is a mandate, and it's a mandate because the people who wrote this